In a world where one click delivers everything you desire, we're losing the ability to desire at all. Paradoxical, isn't it? You're not afraid of living in poverty. You're afraid of feeling empty when you have everything. Look around you. Your smartphone, your clothes, the food in your fridge, entertainment at your fingertips. Material abundance has become the norm for many of us. So why the record levels of anxiety, depression, and loneliness? We live in an age of paradox, physical oversaturation, and emotional starvation. We have everything we need to live, but we often forget what we live for. Once upon a time, life was more straightforward. You hunted, gathered food, protected your family. Your identity was clear, your life purpose obvious: survive and reproduce. Now we've survived. What's next? Alex's story seems perfect. 32 years old, condo in a trendy neighborhood, management position at a tech company, stable income, international travel twice a year. His Instagram feed shows delicious food, gym workouts, happy hours with friends. But in the evening, when he lies down to sleep, it comes, that nameless emptiness. He picks up his phone, scrolls through feeds, watches a show, anything to avoid facing it head on. I should be happy, he thinks. I have everything I dreamed of. But why then this feeling, as if inside there's a hole that nothing can fill? The symptoms of our age of abundance manifest differently. You have access to millions of movies, series, books, games, but instead of satisfaction, endless scrolling, searching for something that will grip you. We consume more content than ever in history, but the satisfaction grows ever smaller. Thousands of friends on social media and deep loneliness. Psychologist Sherry Turkle called this alone together. We're constantly connected, but rarely truly connecting. Remember the last dinner with friends. How many times did you get distracted by phones? How often were your conversations deep, rather than just exchanging information? Choice is good. More choice is better. Or so we think. But psychologist Barry Schwartz, in his work, The Paradox of Choice, showed the opposite. Excessive choice paralyzes us and makes us less happy. Remember how you spent hours choosing a show to watch, and then weren't satisfied with your choice anyway? I need to have the best. I need to be the best. An inner voice that never quiets. Philosopher Alain de Botton calls this status anxiety, constant comparison with others and feeling that you're never good enough. Instagram has become a museum of perfect lives, but behind those beautiful facades are people just like you who doubt themselves and search for meaning. Why do we emotionally starve amid abundance? There's no simple answer, but we can explore some deeper causes. Abraham Maslow proposed a hierarchy of human needs, from physiological, food, water, shelter, to self-actualization, realizing potential, creativity, moral, spiritual growth. Modern society has, for the first time in history, given the masses an opportunity to rise above basic needs. But it turns out that answering the questions, who am I, and why am I here, is much harder than securing food and shelter. Man is not just an economic being, wrote Erich Fromm, but modern culture convinces us otherwise. Buy, own, consume. Think about advertising. It doesn't sell products. It sells happiness, confidence, love, freedom, wrapped in pretty packaging. And we buy, hoping that this time it'll work. This time the new phone, car, clothes will fill the void. Olivia bought an expensive handbag, not because she likes the design or functionality. She bought a promise. With this bag, you'll be confident, successful, attractive. And for a moment it works. But then the emptiness returns. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche proclaimed, "God is dead." He was talking about the crisis of higher values and ideals in modern society. Once, religion, traditions, community gave clear guidelines. Now, we're free to choose our own values. But this freedom often frightens. What to believe in? What matters? If everything is relative and there are no absolutes, how do we find meaning? Once, life was holistic. Work, family, leisure, spirituality, all intertwined in a single context. Now our life is divided into separate spheres that rarely intersect. We have a work self, a family self, a social media self, a friend's self, and we lose our sense of wholeness, of authenticity. Emotional starvation doesn't pass without consequences. It permeates all areas of our lives. Loneliness is a subjective feeling that you have fewer social connections than you desire, explains psychologist John Cacioppo. And this feeling is becoming a global epidemic. In the UK, they even created a ministry of loneliness when they discovered that 9 million Britons often or constantly feel lonely. Tyler, 29, moved to Chicago from a small town, prestigious job, his own apartment, active life. I'm surrounded by people constantly, he says. But sometimes I feel that nobody really knows me. I can tell thousands of people on Instagram what I had for breakfast, but I don't have anyone to talk to about what really matters. Philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre spoke of nausea, existential anxiety that arises when a person confronts the meaninglessness of existence. Today, this nausea manifests as chronic boredom, apathy, a feeling that nothing matters. We fill it with entertainment, work, consumption, but it returns when we're alone with ourselves. Like physical muscles, our emotional abilities atrophy without use. We lose the ability to experience deep emotions, both joy and sadness. Instead, superficial emotional flashes that quickly fade. The irony is that the age of abundance makes us emotionally poorer. We fear unpleasant emotions and avoid them, and with them we lose the ability to feel full joy. Maria used to cry at good movies, laugh until tears came with friends, feel trembling when meeting her beloved. Now she notices that emotions have become muted, as if between her and life, a glass wall. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how, wrote Nietzsche. But why live if basic needs are met, and deeper ones not recognized? Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps, called the absence of meaning an existential vacuum, a state of inner emptiness that can lead to depression, addictions, self-destructive behavior. Now that we've defined the problem, let's talk about solutions. How do we overcome emotional starvation in an age of abundance? Psychologist Erich Fromm distinguished two modes of existence, having and being. The having orientation focuses on possessing things, status, external attributes of success. The being orientation, on experience, growth, connections, inner development. The transition from having to being begins with a simple question: what really matters to me in life? Andrew conducted an experiment. A month without purchases, except necessities. The first days were difficult. He constantly noticed the desire to buy something, to reward himself with a new thing. But gradually came the realization: most of these desires were attempts to fill an inner void. Instead of shopping, he started reading more, meeting friends, spending time in nature. I feel richer having less, he says. Psychologist John Bowlby in attachment theory showed that the need for strong emotional bonds is fundamental to humans. We evolved as social beings, and our brain needs real contact. 3 steps to restore connections. Presence. Learn to be fully present with others. Without a phone, without thoughts about work or other matters. Just here and now, with the person in front of you. Vulnerability. Allow yourself to be real. Share not only successes but also doubts, fears, failures. Real connections are created through authenticity. Regularity. Deep relationships require time and attention. Instead of superficial communication with many people, focus on regular, quality meetings with a few. Rachel introduced a new tradition: phone-free dinners. Once a week, she invites a few close friends, prepares simple food, and they talk about dreams, fears, ideas. At first it was awkward. We were used to superficial conversations. But now these evenings have become most valuable to me. I feel real connection. Modern man doesn't know how to be alone with himself, observed philosopher Blaise Pascal back in the 17th century. Today this is relevant as never before. Learning to be with yourself is the key to emotional wealth. This means Practicing mindfulness, meditation, mindfulness, just quiet moments without stimulation. They help know yourself and your true needs. Emotional literacy. Learn to recognize, name, and accept your emotions, all, not just positive ones. Emotions are the compass of your inner world. Creativity and flow. Find an activity that completely absorbs you, where you lose sense of time. It can be art, sports, cooking, gardening, anything that puts you in a state of flow, according to Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Ian started keeping a journal. At first it was difficult. He didn't know what to write, but gradually discovered how many thoughts, feelings, ideas live inside him. I realized that I had never really been alone with myself, always running from my inner world to external entertainment. Now I understand. Inside me is a whole universe that I had ignored. Viktor Frankl found that people find meaning in 3 ways: through activity, creating something valuable; through experience, love, beauty, truth; through attitude toward inevitable suffering. What unites these paths? Going beyond yourself, connecting with something greater. Ironically, the most effective way to overcome inner emptiness is to stop focusing so much on yourself. Find a cause, community, idea that you serve not for reward or recognition, but because it matters. Sarah, a successful marketing executive, began volunteering at an animal shelter. I thought I was giving my time and energy, but actually I received much more. When you see how your actions really change someone's life, it gives a sense of meaning that can't compare with any career achievement. The modern world is oversaturated with information, and this drains us emotionally. The constant stream of news, messages, content doesn't give time to digest impressions, feel, comprehend. Try 1 day a week without social media, mornings without gadgets, the first hour after waking, unsubscribing from information mailings that don't bring real value. Mindful media consumption. Do I really need to know, watch, read this? Ben decided to delete social media apps from his phone on weekends. The first few hours were like withdrawal. I automatically reached for my phone every 10 minutes. But by Saturday evening, I noticed I had become calmer, more attentive. I spent time with my kids without distraction, read a book I had been putting off. It was like waking from hypnosis. Our emotions are like muscles. They need training. To restore emotional wealth. Create space for emotions. When you feel something strong, don't run, don't suppress, but observe, name, allow yourself to feel. Seek experiences that move you. Art, nature, deep conversations, new impressions, anything that takes you beyond comfortable routine. Practice gratitude. It's not just a trendy fad. Research shows that regular focus on gratitude changes neural pathways and makes us more sensitive to positive emotions. Sophie began listening to classical music, not as background, but fully focusing on the sounds. At first I didn't feel anything special, but gradually I began to notice how melodies evoke in me a whole range of emotions, from bright sadness to triumphant joy. It's as if I'm learning to feel again. What does successful life mean to you? Most of us unconsciously accept the definition of success imposed by society: money, status, recognition, material achievements. Try to rethink success through such questions. What will I remember on my deathbed as the most valuable moments of life? What stories would I want told about me after my death? What makes me truly happy regardless of external recognition? Mike was obsessed with career growth and high income, but after his father's death, something changed. At the funeral, people talked not about Dad's professional achievements, but about what kind of person he was. Generous, sensitive, always ready to help. I realized I wasn't building the right life. Now I try to ask myself daily, am I becoming a better person? Am I making the world better? In traditional societies, rituals created structure, meaning, belonging. Modern life is often deprived of these anchors. Create your own rituals and traditions. Family, shared dinners, celebrations, seasonal activities. Personal, Morning practice, evening reflection, celebrating personal victories. Community, regular meetings with friends, participation in local community life. Rituals provide a sense of stability, continuity, belonging, fundamental human needs. The Peterson family created a tradition of Sunday cooking. Each family member chooses a recipe, and they prepare it together. It's not just about food. It's time when we're really together, talking, laughing, sometimes arguing. The kids look forward to this day, and I've noticed these memories become more important than expensive gifts or entertainment. The word spirituality often evokes mixed reactions, but according to Jung, the spiritual dimension is not necessarily religious, but rather connected with the search for meaning, transcendence, connection with something greater than oneself. Our society is the first in history that has massively tried to live without a spiritual dimension, and the results of this experiment are ambiguous. Spiritual hunger manifests as a feeling that there must be something more than this, questions about meaning and purpose that don't give peace, need for transcendent experience, moments of deep connection, fascination, awe. Psychologist Dasha Keltner researches the emotion of awe, a feeling of amazement before something magnificent that surpasses our understanding. This can be nature, art, cosmos, human kindness. Awe has a powerful impact on the psyche, reduces self-focus, enhances sense of connection, increases generosity and compassion. Seek moments of awe in nature, starry sky, mountains, ocean, wild animals. In art, music, architecture, painting that touches the soul. In human relationships, moments of deep love, altruism, forgiveness. Julia began collecting moments of awe, taking photos and recording them in a journal. Yesterday I saw a thunderstorm over the city, lightning cutting the sky, thunder shaking the earth. I felt so small and yet part of something incredible. Such moments remind our daily concerns are just a small part of the huge canvas of life. D. People tend to seek community that shares deep values. This can be a religious congregation, philosophical circle, environmental movement, creative community, volunteer organization. It's important to find a place where you can discuss deep questions, share personal growth experiences, work together for common good. Stephen joined a philosophy club. We meet every 2 weeks, discuss books, ideas, life questions. These aren't just intellectual discussions. It's real communion of souls. I leave these meetings filled and inspired. Psychologist Martin Seligman found that the most lasting happiness comes from meaningful life, using your strengths to serve something greater than yourself. Ask yourself, what problems in the world concern me most? What talents and skills can I offer? How do I want the world to change because of my existence? Catherine, a successful lawyer, began providing free consultations to people affected by natural disasters. When you use your skills to really help those in need, you feel that your life matters. It's not just work, it's a calling. Technologies aren't enemies of emotional wealth in themselves. The problem isn't with tools, but how we use them. Instead of demonizing or idolizing technology, ask, does this technology bring me closer to people or distance me? Does it enrich my life or simplify it? Does it enhance my presence in the world or distract from it? Robert changed his approach to social media. Before, I just scrolled feeds for hours. Now I use them purposefully, share my creative projects, seek inspiring content, keep in touch with friends abroad. It's like with food. What matters isn't quantity, but quality and purpose. Technologies can not only disconnect but also connect, if we use them consciously. Create human moments in digital communication. Video calls with full presence, without checking mail or messages simultaneously. Voice messages instead of text. They convey emotions, intonations. Shared online activities that create common experience, games, watching movies, cooking from the same recipe. Laura lives far from her parents. Instead of formal, "How are you?" calls, they started an online ritual. Every Sunday they cook dinner together, each in their kitchen, but connected by video. We choose a recipe in advance, buy ingredients, and cook together, talking about everything. Then we sit down to eat, as if at one table. It's much more heartfelt than just exchanging news. Our lives are increasingly divided into online and offline, but in reality, these worlds can mutually enrich each other. Use digital tools to organize real meetings, not replace them. Document offline experiences, not for social media, but to create personal memories. Create hybrid traditions, like family video calls during holidays when family can't gather together. Sam created a messenger group for hiking enthusiasts in his city. We use chat to organize outings to nature. Online communication is just a tool, and real life happens when we conquer mountains together, sit around a campfire, listen to forest silence. Philosopher Matthew Crawford, in Shop Class as Soulcraft, talks about two types of attention, scattered and focused. The modern world encourages the first and complicates the second. But it's focused attention that allows us to touch the depth of life through mastery, contemplation, deep reflection, intimate relationships. How to resist the culture of superficiality. Practice deep work skills, according to Cal Newport. Allocate blocks of time for fully focused activity. Set clear boundaries for distractions. Create an environment conducive to concentration. Choose depth over breadth. Better to read one book slowly and thoughtfully than 10 superficially. Better to have a few close friends than hundreds of superficial acquaintances. Better to develop one hobby to mastery than try dozens. Value silence and emptiness. Allocate time for silence, without music, conversation, media. Don't fear boredom. It's the space where creativity is born. Practice doing nothing, just being present in the moment. Darcy began practicing digital silence Sunday. One day a week, I don't use electronic devices. The first few weeks were terribly uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do with myself, but gradually discovered forgotten pleasures. Reading paper books, drawing, walking without purpose, face-to-face conversations. Now it's my favorite day of the week. Let me remind you where we started. The paradox of modernity, where material wealth often accompanies emotional emptiness. But this paradox also contains hope. If emotional starvation is a state we acquire, then we can free ourselves from it. Emotional wealth isn't just the absence of suffering, it's the ability to feel the full spectrum of emotions, from brightest to darkest. Create deep, authentic connections with others. Find meaning and purpose that transcend personal well-being. Experience moments of transcendence, unity, awe. Live in accordance with your own values and calling. 5 signs of emotionally rich life. Authenticity. You live in accordance with your true self, not with social masks. Presence. You're able to be fully here and now, not escaping into past or future. Connection. You have deep, mutual relationships where you can be yourself. Contribution. You use your talents and resources to serve a greater purpose. Growth. You're constantly growing, learning, expanding your horizons. Elena was a successful businesswoman. Own company, prestigious apartment, world travel. But each evening she returned home feeling depleted. I had everything that should make me happy, but inside was emptiness that nothing could fill. Not shopping, not entertainment, not even business success. Everything changed when during one trip she had an accident. The injuries weren't serious, but she found herself in a small village where she had to spend several weeks until she could travel. These weeks changed everything. Without access to usual entertainment, constant busyness, I finally met myself. There was just me, local residents, nature, and time for reflection. Elena began noticing things she had previously ignored. How freshly picked strawberries taste. How the air smells after rain. How sincerely children laugh playing outside. How local residents care for each other. I realized I had been living like a robot programmed for achievement and consumption. I forgot how to be human, to feel, connect, wonder. Returning home, Elena began changing her life. Reduced working hours, delegating some responsibilities, started volunteering at an organization helping underprivileged children, introduced weekly phone-free dinners with friends with no work talk, resumed an old passion for painting she had abandoned for lack of time. My bank account became a little smaller, but my life became incomparably richer. I feel joy, sadness, admiration, compassion. the whole spectrum of emotions that was previously muted. I'm finally living, not just existing. Today we talked about the paradox of our time, material wealth and emotional poverty, about a society that offers us everything except what truly matters. But remember, we aren't just products of culture, we're its creators. Each of us makes choices daily, between depth and superficiality, between real connection and digital imitation, between meaningless accumulation and meaningful life, between fear of emptiness and courage to face it. We can choose differently. We can create islands of emotional wealth in a sea of superficiality. And perhaps over time, these islands will connect into continents. Ancient Greeks had a concept of eudaimonia, flourishing that comes through a well-lived life. Not just happiness as pleasure, but happiness as wholeness, meaningfulness, virtue. We've lost this understanding, but we can reclaim it. One choice, one conversation, one moment of awareness at a time. What you can do today. Ask yourself uncomfortable questions. What does good life mean to me? What am I putting off for later, though it's important to me? Am I living by my own values or ones imposed from outside? Take one small step toward emotional wealth. Spend an evening without gadgets. Call a person you miss. Find 15 minutes to just be in silence. Do something from the heart, without expecting reward. Look at your life from the perspective of eternity. Imagine looking back on your life in its final moments. What would matter? What would be important? Live today as you'd want to remember tomorrow. As Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. In a world obsessed with external stimuli, the most revolutionary act is to return to inner space, to silence, to real emotions, to authentic connections. Write in the comments, what emptiness in your life needs filling? What have you been putting off for later, the longest? What one small step are you ready to take today? Thank you for your attention. May your life be not just full, but truly filled.